Today, I guess I'm addressing a question that a lot of you have asked me. You know, I've mentioned before that I don't want to go into law and that I'm not going to be a lawyer and that instead I want to pursue medicine. But I guess I've never really said why, after having done a 3-year law degree at the University of York, I have chosen to not be a lawyer and to not go into law. So this video addresses that and kind of explains why I wanted to do law in the first place, then how I found out that I didn't want to do law, and I guess some takeaway messages of if you want to do law or if you're thinking it's not for you, or if you're like conflicted about it, then hopefully this video will help you decide one way or another. So firstly, going into why I wanted to be a lawyer in the first place and how I came to that decision, how I decided that law was going to be for me. So I don't really remember a specific moment in time that I was like, this is something I want to do, now I'm going to do law. It was kind of a gradual process. I think roughly it would have been when I was about 15 or 16, because prior to my injury, which was when I was 15, I didn't want to go to university. I was very set on, like, I'm not going to uni. I wasn't really enjoying education at that point, so I think I was just kind of put off uni, and I think that's quite a common thing that happens. Then after my injury I had a lot of time to think, and I was like, no, actually I do want to go to university, but what do I want to do? So then I kind of looked into what am I interested in, what type of lifestyle do I want to have when I'm older, and what careers could possibly give me that. So I think I kind of came to the decision that I wanted to do law when I was about 15, 16, because I remember when I went and started college at 16 that I was set on doing law. I remember my first week of college when I was like 16, I was reading Letters to a Law Student by Nicholas McBride, which is like the Bible for anybody that's thinking about doing law. But I kind of decided to do law by quite a simple, probably naive process. And I think looking back, that probably explains why law's not for me, right? So when I was like 16, I remember basically sitting down and thinking, what skills do I have? What do I enjoy? And what type of lifestyle do I want? And I remember being very clear with myself that I wanted to be in a high-paid job. I was okay with working long hours, and basically I wanted money and prestige, and I wanted a job that was like, ooh, that's your job? Wow, like I wanted one of those jobs. And I didn't want to do something creative, even though I am very passionate about that, and that is something that I've always really enjoyed. I knew that it wasn't something I wanted to do full-time. I just wanted to do it for me. It was never anything I wanted to do in a paid job, you know? So I remember looking and thinking, okay, these are the qualifications I have and I want a really high paying job. What are my options? And I remember sitting there thinking, engineer, accountant, doctor, lawyer, or banker. They were my choices. And I kind of remember going through them and thinking, engineer, not too good at science. I mean, funny now, isn't it? I want to go and be a doctor, but whatever. At the time, I was like, sounds a bit boring, not really for me. Then I remember thinking, like, accountant, well, I'm not good at maths. I'm still not good at maths. So that was like, ruled off the list. Doctor, at the time, I remember thinking, oh, I'm really like squeamish with blood, and like I just don't think that's for me. Now I literally could watch a full operation and eat my dinner, like does not bother me one bit, but back then I remember thinking the sight of blood would make me faint, so obviously being a doctor's not for me. And also doctor's one of them that it's like, unless you decide that you want to be a doctor at like 13, it's quite difficult to go into that when you're like 15, 16. Then it was either lawyer or banker, and to be honest, throughout my degree of law, I did toy between those two, because I remember thinking like, investment banker or something like that, Wolf of Wall Street type vibes. I look back now and I'm like, why would I want to do that? But at the time that seemed really exciting and flashy and just something that really appealed to me. So it was kind of between those two, but I decided, like, what degree do you really do if you want to be a banker, you know, like what degree do you do? Then I looked into law and I realised that law was actually something I quite enjoyed, and a lot of the skills that you need to be a lawyer that I kind of already had or thought I could develop, like communication skills, mixing with different people, organisation and time management skills, as well as being able to work independently and in a group. Those type of skills, I was like, well, I can already do this, so maybe this is sort of the career that I could go into. And then once I'd done that really and kind of came to that conclusion, I remember looking at like a university course list and thinking, these are all the courses I could possibly do, what do I want? And I remember going through every single one and none of them jumped out to me other than law. And I thought, well, obviously this is what I'm going to do then. I remember even having a wobbly before I started my degree, probably in like the August before I started, thinking, God, what am I doing? Like, do I even want to do law? Just basically having a whole meltdown, which I think is quite common for people like before they start uni. Just thinking like, what am I doing? Like, really, what am I doing? And I remember thinking, do I want to switch and do a philosophy degree? Because now I am still really interested in philosophy and ethics, you know, of law, but more generally, I suppose. I was very much thinking about that back then, and I kind of talked myself out of it and thought, no, like, do law, it's a more stable degree, like it will give you more career prospects, and if you want to be a lawyer, then just like go and do law. So that's kind of how I decided that I wanted to do law. Then from when I was 16 to 18, I basically read loads of books, went down to my local courts, I did a bit of work experience in a solicitor's firm, and I was like, yeah, okay, maybe. You know, it's funny now because when I did a week's worth of work experience in my final year of like sixth form college, bear in mind at that point I already had an offer that I had accepted to the University of York to study law. That work experience week I absolutely hated, genuinely hated it. I remember they asked me to do photocopying and I stood by the photocopier and wanted to cry. Like, I really just didn't like it. It just wasn't for me. And I made excuses and thought, well, is it because it's such a small high street solicitor's firm and I'm not really getting to do any work, I'm just doing sort of the mundane jobs and I'm not really like meeting the clients or doing anything substantial, and it was sort of my first bit of work experience in an office, and I kind of just thought, you know what, this isn't all that law is. There is so much more to law, so I didn't really let it put me off. And now I guess I want to talk about how I realised that law just like wasn't for me. So basically, I started my law degree in 2017 and I went in thinking corporate barrister. That's what I want to be. I've already done the solicitor stuff, didn't like it, barrister. I've been to court, I've seen them like do their thing, I've seen Harvey Specter in the suits, that's me, that's a bit of me, you know. I decided I wanted to do corporate commercial because when I looked at all the practice areas on Chamber's website, that to me just seemed more like my style of working, sort of longer cases, less client contact, more sort of sitting there doing your own thing and doing your work, which is at the time, well, it is really just like my preferred working style, as opposed to say doing criminal or family and you're like in court a lot and you're mixing a lot of clients. Like, to me that wasn't really my vibe. So yeah, so I went into university first term thinking, that's what I want to do. By second term I realised that actually no, that's not what I wanted to do at all. I decided that I didn't want to practice law, I didn't like it. So when I'd done moots and mock trials in my first like term and second term, I just didn't like it. There wasn't one bit of it that like enthralled me. I just kind of was like, like, it's okay, I guess. And I think I also, I guess, overthought it a lot, thinking, can I really do this for like 30 years? Like, you've done it for 2 months and you already don't like it. Like, can you really do this for long term? No, probably not. So yeah, I decided really a barrister thing wasn't for me, and I kind of did work experience towards the end of my first year at Barrister Chambers, and it was okay, like I enjoyed it, but like looking back I only enjoyed it because I did it with one of my good friends. And especially at the end of my first year I kind of reflected on the work experience I'd done and the way I'd acted really around law firms and potential employers, and kind of realised that my heart just wasn't in it. Like, so I'll give you an example. Like, I'd gone to networking events and fair play, like I'd made the effort. But I remember when I was there that there were so many other students so keen and knew so much about the firm and the job role more generally, and were asking so many like thoughtful questions, and you could really tell they wanted to know and wanted to be there, really wanted that lifestyle. And I was just sort of there for the free food and drink, to be honest, and just sort of listening. I don't think I ever really asked a question. I was just sort of like, cool, okay, like I'm just here, like listening, hoping for the best, but like I don't really have anything to contribute because I just didn't research the firm before I went, and I just wasn't really that interested. But you reflect back and you think, if I didn't even research the firm before I went to one of their events, and I haven't really done much research into the job role of a corporate solicitor, etc., I clearly just, I'm not that interested. That kind of realisation hit towards the end of my first year, like in my first year, I guess generally, especially as well in my first year I did other job roles like with the civil service and marketing roles, and I enjoyed them much more. And I just was like, do you know what, why am I doing law? Like, why am I pursuing something that I'm just not really interested in? Like, my heart's just not in it. And I think a lot of it was down to, when you're on a law degree, everyone's pursuing the same goal. They all want that training contract or pupillage. So you're in an environment where everyone is really pushing towards a certain outcome. So you sort of just feel yourself being swayed along with everyone. And it's not until you take a step back and really look and analyse yourself and reflect on everything that you realise that actually that's not something that I want. Yeah, and then I suppose in second year I gave it more of a shot. So I sort of just did it to make sure that I was making the right decision. So I did a lot of work experience in my second year with law firms, Clifford Chance, Social May, BCLP, sort of big corporate firms. And then I also did like barrister chamber staff and CPS and that kind of thing. Kind of did it all really to make sure that I was making the right decision to not want to be a lawyer. And so really all the work experience I did, I realised that I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't there for the right reasons. The only bit of work experience I genuinely really enjoyed was my sort of, it's like a VAC scheme, but it's not really. Like, I did a few days basically at BCLP, Brian K. Flayton Paisner, and I absolutely loved it. Really, really loved it. And it threw a spanner in the works for me at the time, because I remember thinking, I already decided I don't want to do law. I've already decided that I'm probably going to go and do medicine. That's really something I want to do, but like I'm trying to figure out the logistics of that and how I'm going to work it out. And I did this like placement at BCLP and was like, whoa, maybe I can see myself working here. But again, it wasn't until I reflected back on it and I thought, but what is it about BCLP that you like? What is it? Is it the work? Is it the people? Is it, feeling that prestige when you walk in the building, like, oh, I'm a lawyer, And it really was, like, I just really enjoyed when you walked into that building and it's swish and like, just like a wow building, and you walk in there in office where it makes you feel like important and it makes you feel special and it makes you feel like you are an intelligent human being and that you deserve to be there. And that feeling, I guess, is what I really enjoyed, but I didn't really enjoy the work. And whenever any of the trainees like explained to me what they did on like a weekly basis, I was like, oh no, not for me really. As well with law, it's one of them jobs that you have to really put your heart and soul into it. You have to work a lot of hours, like especially if you're sort of in the corporate London solicitor sphere, then you need to be working like a 60-80 hour week. And to be honest, I'm not the type of person, I thought I was, but I'm just not the type of person that can work a really long houred week if I don't love the job. Like, no amount of money in the world can make it worth it. And I kind of realised that, I suppose, in my second year, that do I want to be poor but in a job that I love, or not poor but like less well off, or do I want to have a lot of money but like never be at home and always be in the office? And to be honest, I'd much rather have the freedom to do what I want to do and just have less money. And yeah, when I kind of made that realisation, it was quite liberating to think I could do whatever I want to do. Like, I realised I'm pursuing law for the prestige and the money. And in the beginning, I thought they were things that I wanted, but I realised after a year or two that actually I don't want that at all. It's just not fulfilling. It doesn't give me what I really, really want. I remember I had a mini pupillage at the end of my second year with the same chambers that I did it in my first year. And obviously I really enjoyed it in my first year because I did it with like one of my good friends. We had such a blast doing it together. The second time around, for the first like few days, I commuted in with the same friend actually who I did the pupillage with in the first place, because she had like another work experience opportunity at a law firm. So we actually commuted in together and commuted out together. So it kind of was like she was there with me, so I enjoyed it. But then when she wasn't there and I was doing it on my own, I realised actually no, I don't like it at all. Like, it's just not for me. I'm not having fun. I have a distinct memory of when I was sitting in court, and I remember just sitting there thinking, my back hurts, I'm bored, I want to have something to eat and drink. When's lunch? I remember working out like, oh, if we go for lunch at this time, then it'll be too late after lunch to come back, so then we'll leave this for today and I'll get an early finish. And it's like, when you're thinking like that, like, it's just not for you, you know what I mean? Like, for me, I don't want to be in a job like that. I want to be in a job where I'm like, oh, I love to be here, I love every minute. And really, the only thing I've ever felt like that with, other than obviously like YouTube and creative stuff, is when I've been at the hospital. And I realised when I did that and I was working in more like healthcare sectors that this is definitely the thing for me. It gets me up out of bed in the morning. It's something that I really feel fulfilled and I'm excited to go, you know, and that's what I want to feel out of a job. I don't want to just be like, oh, I'm just doing this for the money, but because when times get tough, you know, you won't stick it out and it'll be really tough and it'll be really like detrimental to your mental health, and I just don't want that as my life. So I suppose the key takeaways from this video are, it's really important to just figure out who you are as a person and being realistic about who you are and what you want from life. You know, I quite naively thought I wanted money and all of this sort of prestige, and in actuality I don't want that at all. I just want a job that makes me happy because that's more important to me and my values. It's just that when I was 16 I didn't really have a grasp on what my values truly were. So I suppose it's about figuring out what they are and finding a job that matches that, and not being swayed as well by people around you wanting to do these big things and have all this money and go and do it. Like, good for them who want to do it if they genuinely want to do it, but also knowing that it's okay for you to say, that's not what I want to go and do this, even if it means I'm going to have a less financially stable life, because to me it's not about the money. And I guess going off that, it's also about going into law for the right reasons. A lot of people do go into law like I did, thinking they want the money and they want a really flashy life, you know, in the future, but like, are you truly going to be able to stick it out? Like, if you're the type of person that can genuinely do 80-hour weeks and put your heart and soul into a job just for the money, good for you, and law's probably for you. But like, if you need more than that, then get more than that. Like, why settle for a job just because it offers money? Like, I am a great believer of, if there's a will, there's a way, you know. If you want to be financially stable, but the thing that you're passionate about typically doesn't offer a lot of money, I don't know, like, I just believe in the universe enough to think if you pursue that, something will come up along the way and give you what you want. Maybe that's just a bit, you know, like me believing in the universe and being a bit too spiritual or naive or whatever, but that's just kind of how I feel about it. Like, things will crop up and everything works out in the end. So pursue something that makes you happy rather than something that just gives you something in the short term but will have a detrimental effect in the long term. And also for law, get work experience and really sit and evaluate how you feel at the work experience, because obviously I had work experience before I even went into law and I hated it. And if I had listened to myself then and thought, you know what, realistically, what is this telling me about my future for my law career, it would have told me that law's not for me, and it would have told me that 2 years before I found that out. So yeah, do work experience and I guess reflect on it and really sit and think, did you like it? What did you like? Why did you like it? What did you not like? Why did you not like it? Because you might do a bit of work experience and think you don't like it, but it's just down to the people, or it's just down to a particular area of law, and that can all be changed. And again, you might think you love it, like me at BCLP, but I only really liked it because everyone was really friendly and nice and the building was proper swanky. Finally, my last bit of advice, or a takeaway I suppose, is it's okay to change your mind. In my 3 years of law, I've changed my mind about what I want to do as a career, probably like the wind. I've changed my mind every week. At some point I was like, civil service, marketing, maybe I want to do digital marketing, maybe I want to do YouTube full time, maybe I want to be in the army, maybe I want to be a doctor, you know. Changed my mind so much. But that's okay, because every time you change your mind and you know, come up with new options and you evaluate potential life paths, opens your mind to something new, and you know, you can research into what's out there, and that's never a bad thing. So I guess, yeah, in conclusion, law wasn't for me, but I really did enjoy studying law. It had its ups and downs for sure. There were definitely assignments and areas of law that I just didn't like at all, but there were also assignments that I really enjoyed and I really got my teeth into, and there were a lot of elements to studying law that I really liked. So also, I guess it goes for saying that you might not want to practice law, but law is a really good foundational degree for life. You know, 50% of people who have a law degree do not go into law, so it is quite common to have that degree but then not pursue like a career in law. So that's also like a possibility, you know, if you think that the theory of law and the qualities that are required for studying that discipline are for you, but you might not think solicitor or barrister is for you, you know, it's still an option. That's kind of why I don't want to be a lawyer, and I'm going to make a whole separate video on why I want to go into medicine, and I want to do a whole, I guess, like almost like a little series documenting my progress and process for going in to do graduate medicine. And you know, that will all start with why I want to do graduate medicine. So let me know if you have any questions about the whole graduate medicine, my future, my career journey, and also anything about law, you know, I have studied law for 3 years, I'm going to do my master's in law. Law is always going to be a big part of my life, and I can always offer advice on that because I've been there and done it.